Jenom doplním krátký komentář.
I will just comment on that. You can create a virtual meeting room. You can design it as you wish. You can see that there are different colors. For some people, it's better to have city behind your window, or you want to be in a manufacturing hall. So this is viewed from my avatar. There is also my colleague's avatar. And you can discuss in the space already where will which thing go. And this is a thing that's not possible in the real world. You can upload anything you want. You can upload any presentation in PDF. You run it, or you can upload a video. Now it's built for 20 people, so 20 people can be there at the same time, even though each of them is on a different continent or in a different country. So they all see the same thing in real time. It will be great on 5G, but it's designed for our phones, on our present connections. So this is an app we have. It's very useful these days for SMEs, because SMEs are in our portfolio. It is interesting for big companies as well. But SMEs are most hit by the situation because they don't have funds to go abroad these days. I have also mentioned healthcare and the development in healthcare. Our company has a virtual unit of intensive care unit. So our colleague from Czech Trade has already mentioned that we are one of the companies that have been helped by Czech Trade. This program is very successful for learning and for teaching. If you look at any news in any browsers, you can see that there is a lot of healthcare operators and doctors and nurses that are sick at the moment. So this is something that could help to teach new people, to train them fast, to be able to work in an intensive care unit. It's a virtual training, which is one of the benefits. And thanks to this training, you remember 90% more than in a theoretical training. We have discussed this with doctors and directors of hospitals. It has been very popular thanks to these situations related to coronavirus, because there are not enough employees if some of the current employees are sick. Also, there are some cases that are very rare, so nurses and doctors only meet them a couple of times in a year, so it would be very good for them to practice them in a virtual reality environment. So universities and professional schools and simulation centers have shown their interest. Simulation medicine is not too developed in the Czech Republic, so this project could help not only in the Czech Republic but also globally. We started negotiations with manufacturers of healthcare technologies, and they are interested to show this technology around the world. I will show you if if the video works, I will show you what this reality looks like. The most important thing is that when I come to this reality, to this platform, I can upload my own machines at the intensive care unit. There is a human being. You can see what the application looks like. So you can learn how to run the intensive care unit. So this is VR in education. The prototype of the application will be available in 2 months, and it has been supported by the Ministry of Industry and Trade. Thank you very much. This is just a very short overview of virtual reality. I don't know if there are questions. So there is no question on Slido, but does anyone want to ask a question? Somebody from this hall or on Slido? So, thank you very much for your presentation. And now I would like to invite Marek Galetka, Business Development Manager of B2A Software Development.
Tak, máte prosím.
Hello, the floor is yours. I hope the connection will be okay. I need to switch to the mode of sharing the screen. But before I'll share my screen, I'll first tell you something about the B2A software development. We are developing our own applications for digitization of processes in companies. We provide tablet solutions. We are the first ones in the Czech Republic who has come with tablet solutions. We do not only work for the manufacturing industries, but also in other fields, for example, healthcare. We also have applications for pilots, for engineers, machine drivers, etc. As I've said, I'll now share my screen with you. I'll ask my colleague Zdeněk Horák, who just wrote me the host doesn't enable screen sharing. Can you help me with that, please? Now it's possible. Great, thank you. Can you see it now? Great. Yes, we can see it. Thank you. This is a very short presentation about what we are doing. I'll show you what virtual reality means for us and what effect it can have for companies. I called my presentation From Pen to Virtual Reality. We are developers who provide digital solutions for companies, and we started with the first ideas where we could see big disproportions between using smart devices, smart iPads, smartphones, etc. in your personal life. But at the same time, there was not very much digitization in the manufacturing, in our working field. We were using hands a lot. Operators in manufacturing plants were using pen and paper, so there was this big gap between digitization in our personal lives and working lives. This slide shows it clearly. The disproportion was so big that we decided to develop our own solution. We created an application for pilots and for companies in mobility, in a railway, for railway companies. The biggest ratio of our know-how and using our platforms is in manufacturing. That's where we worked from the beginning. And we use that knowledge and that expertise in other fields as well. We use the same logic and we provide it for other fields as well. Our solution is a modern ecosystem that is integrated within the system of the company. With the ERP, we provide mobile applications for the end users. That's where the focus of our activities lies. It's web applications and Industry 4.0 ready. We digitize any processes, even administration processes, and we transfer information in real time between the company systems and our apps with almost no downtime. Our apps create a whole ecosystem right now. We have an application for offices, for controllers, for operators, for foremen, for warehouses, for servicing external machines, also for claims, customer claims. We also have an app that works as a messenger. It basically is a communication application, basically works like Messenger, and it serves the internal communication in the company. But because the companies don't have rights to use WhatsApp or similar platforms, they use our app called Messenger. And that brings me to virtual coaching. That's my next topic. If I simplify that, that's basically an animation of what the company wants to pass to their workers. In our applications, we can survey, we can track skill meters of individual people, and we might assess that a certain worker is not qualified for a certain activity, for example, working with a certain machine, or haven't worked with that machine for a long time. We assess that they need training, they need a virtual coach, and that coach trains the worker for the specific activity. There are a lot of ways of how to do virtual coaching. I'll try to show you in real time how the virtual coaching works. I need to show you that in a different application. Just give me a moment. What you can see now is a live what you can see in our application. I'll log in as a worker, as an operator in a plant. These are my tasks, the tasks that I need to do in the manufacturing plant. This is the menu, and I'll go here to Operations tab, and I can see all the tasks for today. I'll go here, I'll swipe. This means that I start working, and the system assessed that my qualification is not sufficient for this task. So I need to go through virtual training. I'll now start the training. And this is the virtual training. How does it work? You can see the space where you work. it says that I need to click on number 2, so I do that, and I do what the instructions tell me. The first virtual training is over. I'll be looking forward to seeing you in the next trainings. So that's the end of the virtual training. And now I go back to the app. And then I automatically started my task. I hope you could see clearly how the virtual training works. It basically gives you all the specific instructions what to do. We provide that to companies. The virtual training can look a bit different as well. We have customized applications for our partners. And it's very diverse. All the operations are diverse. It's quite costly to focus just on one kind of virtual training. So what we do is we film an experienced worker, and then we play what he is doing to the less qualified workers. Concerning the virtual reality, there are other topics that are related to that. For example, digital twin, virtual twin. And in our company, we perceive that as a trend. The trend is already here. My colleagues talk about that a lot. The previous speakers talked about that. It's also one of the responses to the coronavirus pandemic. That's why it's becoming more and more important nowadays. And in our field, we work a lot in manufacturing. We say that first we need to digitize processes because this is step 10, not step number 1. In a lot of manufacturing plants, people still work with pens and papers. So once you do the first step, then we can talk about virtual coaching, virtual agenda, what can you automate, etc., etc. At the moment, it's not the main focus, but we can see a lot of added value in that. And we definitely talk about that in the manufacturing companies. That's all from me, from B to A software development, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Are there any questions? No. Leoš Kubíček talked about Czech companies and whether they are ready for virtual reality, whether they're ready to use these solutions. We talked about healthcare, for example. What do you require from them? Concerning healthcare, we are quite lucky. Well, it's confidential data, so I can't talk about that too much. But it's true that we have been working with healthcare institutions. The healthcare sector wants these solutions, but again, this is step 10, not step number 1. We addressed the agenda of doctors, nurses. We want them to use better solutions, not just pen and paper, better systems for the history of the patient, to use tablets to provide better communication between patients and healthcare workers. And once we achieve that, we can provide a solution as the next step. When you read the news, you can see that a lot of healthcare workers have fallen ill with coronavirus. So this is a problem. It will be necessary to virtualize some kind of healthcare. That would be a great help for the healthcare sector. But again, we are very realistic. We know everyone wants everything now, but it's not always possible. They need to start first with the digitization. Thank you very much for contributing to Smart Expert Forum. Greetings to Zlin, and I'd like to thank Marek Galetka and Leoš Kubíček as well. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Goodbye. Now we'll go back from virtual reality to actual reality, but we'll move abroad and we'll focus on South Korea. And we'll connect with Hanna Němcová, who is the head of the Foreign Office of Czech Trade in Seoul. And she's the only speaker in this part. Czech Trade launched its office in Seoul last year, and since that time Hanna Němcová has been the head of the Foreign Office of Czech Invest. In the past, Hanna Němcová worked for Czech Invest in Prague, and she focused on the topic of nanotechnologies and material research. Again, we're still connecting with Hanna Němcová. Hopefully, we'll connect with her soon. I can tell you something more about Czech Trade in South Korea. They focus on high-tech new products, semiconductors, electronics, products that use artificial intelligence, and new methods of online communication, including the Internet of Things. We might talk about all that with Hanna Němcová, who will be here with us in a moment. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us from Seoul? Hello.
So welcome to the forum. The floor is yours. Good afternoon and enjoy it. Thank you very much. Hello. I would like to greet everybody in Prague. I would need technical support because I don't have my presentation at the moment. And they will do that. So we can see it already. This is the first slide. However, it must be controlled from the Czech Republic, not from Korea. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody in Prague. Thank you for coming. My name is Hanna Němcová. I work for Czech Invest and Czech Trade in South Korea. And I would like to tell you something about the Korean environment. The Republic of Korea is one of the main Asian tigers. Looking into history, over 70 years, South Korea has achieved a lot after the Korean War. It is very unique. I would just like to mention that the capital of Korea is Seoul. It has about 11 million people, but more people come during the day. Korea has about 75 million inhabitants. Its area is like the Czech Republic, but it has 5 times more people. The main language is Korean. It is not related to Japanese or Chinese, but it's also a complicated language. The currency is Korean won. I would like to invite you to Business Info to look at the basic information about South Korea. Korea is the fourth biggest economy in Asia, even though it's a small country, and it's 11th globally. It is also an important investor in the Czech Republic, after Germany, the USA, and Japan. There is a notable cooperation in research. Korea is a very stable country, oriented on export. It's fifth in the world in export, and especially it's leader in electronics, ICT, automotive, shipbuilding industry. However, it's an export country, so it is dependent on Japan, ASEAN, European Union, China, and the US. It is a very progressive and innovative country, as we will see on the next slides. After Israel, it's the second country worldwide that invests in research. It focuses on education as well. This is related to innovation and technologies. The European Union has a trade agreement with South Korea, but there are some barriers to access the market. However, it is not impossible. This is a big market, 50 million people. It has a big purchase power. It's a consumption-oriented society. And usually Korean people are happy to pay for quality. It's a trendsetter in the region, not just in electro industry, but also in culture. For instance, K-pop is very well known in Southeast Asia. That's positive for us. Korea is familiar with the Czech Republic and with Prague. As to economics, China is the main business partner, which is positive and negative. At the beginning of the corona crisis, it was mostly a negative influence. However, also the EU, ASEAN, and Japan are important partners. As I've already mentioned, since 2001, there has been FTA treaty with the EU. Some of the barriers concerning taxes have been lifted, but there still are some restrictions. What are the main current trends in the territory? Just like other countries, South Korea is impacted by coronavirus. South Korea didn't have to introduce a lockdown, and it has been very successful to tackle the crisis. It has been one of the most successful countries in the world. So this crisis has contributed to their technological advance. Everything is contactless and digital, so the pressure on quickening the digitization is even more strong at the moment. Everything is also clean and green, which copies the Western trends. This is mainly the fact in automotive. Korea is a leader in automotive. It is trying to focus on e-mobility, hydrogen technologies, and other similar technologies. The pandemic has negatively impacted trade with Korea because travel restrictions are still very much a thing. Especially, there is no visa-free mobility with the Czech Republic, Foreign people are not allowed to South Korea. And everybody who's not a diplomat or who doesn't have an exception needs to go to a quarantine for 2 weeks. It is paid and it is in a government facility, so people usually don't go there. At the same time, it is one of the safest countries in the world. There is a low number of infected people at the moment, which is also thanks to the transparent approach and use of modern technologies in the fight against the coronavirus. Throughout the coronavirus crisis, up to this day, South Korea has had a little over 20,000 cases. Only 2,000 are in isolation per 50 million inhabitants, and about 400 people died. About Korea, it is one of the 6 countries in the world that has the technology to build a power plant, a nuclear power plant. They are very successful, especially in the Middle East. During the last 2 years, Korea has been more and more interested in Europe. There are financial groups and conglomerates who would like to invest in Europe. One of their main topics is automotive. As to innovation capacities and innovation potential in South Korea, this country is a leader in ICT. Now I am not sure if you can see the picture. Yes, you can. Here you can see the International Telecommunication Union. South Korea comes second in this index. This means that they are a pioneer in ICT. They frequently come first or second because their communication technologies are used in all different sectors: computer, automotive, life sciences, etc. This is another indicator. So the Global Innovation Index by Bloomberg, South Korea ranked first in 2019 for 6 subsequent years. It is an innovation leader, and they have gained this ranking because they have invested a big share of GDP in research, technology, and sciences. This is one of the reasons why many international companies come and invest in Korea. Here you can see the reason why Korea is one of the leaders. Their strategic investment goes to innovation growth. You can see 4 main fields and policies that Korea uses. This is related to 8 projects that you can see in the middle of the picture. The main fields are smart factories, smart cities, drones, life sciences, automotive industry, and related technologies, and mostly AI, and also hydrogen economy and hydrogen for automotive. Now I would like to mention the cooperation with Europe, or specifically with the Czech Republic. The cooperation has been ongoing on different levels in academia or also in business through the Technology Agency of the Czech Republic. This agency has cooperated with Korea a long time. Especially Delta is one of the most important programs. Every year there is a launch for applications for this Delta program. Every year there are different categories where applicants can file their applications. The condition is that there must be a company who's an applicant, and then there can be other companies or research centers or universities. As to Korea, GetUp and Kiat are the partners. So Korea Institute of Technology and Evaluation. The Czech Republic is very successful in this international program, also within Europe. Even though the Czech Republic is a small country, in 2019 there have been 5 successful projects. In 2020, 9 new projects were filed and launched between Korea and the Czech Republic. Then you can see examples of technologies and universities that took part in this program. The main topics are, as I've already said, high technology fields such as the ones I've already mentioned. Korea and the Czech Republic also cooperate when a company looks for partners. There is Kotra, which is a Korean agency similar to Czech Trade, Korea Trade Promotion Agency. Also Invest Korea, which is a counterpart to Czech Invest. It is a governmental organization that promotes international investment in Korea. These 2 agencies have a department for startups, and I would like to say that startup globally is not just a small company from specific fields, but startups are any SMEs that are launching their technologies, especially technological startups from the key sectors that I've already mentioned. Then the KISET agency, that's also a government institution that promotes and supports startups and SMEs. Also, Korea cooperates with diverse universities, such as KAIST, Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technologies, and local ministries of Trade, Industry and Energy, Ministry of Startups and SMEs, or Ministry of Science and ICT. KOIMA is Korea Importers Association, and then there are more and more platforms. So if you are interested, you can just Google those abbreviations and you will find their websites.
Now I'd like to talk about the post-COVID innovation trends in Korea. Korea, as any different country, has suffered a lot from the consequences of COVID restrictions, and in order to mitigate the consequences, there has been a new strategy launched by the government. It's called Korean New Deal, and there are 3 main pillars. The first is a digital New Deal, the second Green New Deal, and the third pillar is called Stronger Safety Net that includes a lot of social programs and also cybersecurity. I'll talk more about Korean New Deal later in my presentation. Foreign direct investments and investment in general from the part of Korea is very unsure at the moment after the coronavirus pandemic, especially Industry 4.0 is accelerating, and also global value chain is being restructured. There is a big focus on the national manufacturing plants and a big trend in moving the manufacturing, the production from abroad to local plants. A lot of companies in automotive industry had to close their plants in Korea, and that had a very negative impact on their economic results. These steps are meant to prevent such consequences. There is the word untagged. That means that there will be a big focus on digital applications and less focus on face-to-face solutions. So the trend is to prevent personal contact. In case there is a new lockdown, we need to have digital equivalents to such communications. There's also a broad application of 5G technologies and everything that's related to that goes through different fields of industry. Especially this is a topic for life sciences, artificial intelligence, healthcare, virtual reality, drones, Internet of Things, and cybersecurity. Now I'd like to talk more about Korean New Deal. The first pillar is the Digital New Deal. By 2025, all the goals within the strategy should be met. There's a massive investment, as you can see, and one of the main goals is to create a lot of jobs in Korea. Digital New Deal focuses mainly on ICT, smart cities, smart government, and different kinds of platforms, applications of 5G networks, and artificial intelligence. People should be capable of doing all the administration from their home through digitized tools from their phones, but cybersecurity must be assured. Smart hospitals is one of the parts of the pillar. Again, application of 5G network and diagnosis using artificial intelligence. The second pillar is called Green New Deal. That is applied mainly in automotive industry, and there's a shift from diesel engines to electronic vehicles, electric cars. This is connected with the development of the infrastructure, especially charging stations. Korea is very developed in that field, but by 2025 they want to expand massively in this field. There is also a big focus on the production of hydrogen vehicles. There will be a big expansion of infrastructure as well. They want to reassemble diesel vehicles, especially diesel trucks, into hydrogen trucks. And they want to expand in the solar energy field and also the wind energy field in order to have a higher percentage of energy from renewable sources. Apart from these two pillars, there are 10 key projects that are defined in that strategy. You can see the list of them on the slide. These are the main sectors that I have already mentioned. And if you're interested in that, you can Google Korean New Deal and you'll surely find the link to the English version of Korean New Deal. Again, something about the investment in the post-COVID time. There is a higher risk, higher uncertainty. There are also trade disputes between China and the USA that is related to Korea as well. China is one of the biggest business partners, and on the other hand, the USA protect South Korea from the military perspective, but they are also an important business partner. There are also historical disputes between Korea and Japan. Especially during the last year, this is very prominent because Japan and Korea are banning export or import of certain key products like semiconductors or batteries. And they are trying to replace the import or export by business with different countries, but that definitely hits a lot of fields in the industry. That's a pity, and unfortunately, we cannot see much improvement for the future. There is also a rising protectionism. This goes hand in hand with the rising uncertainty. Every country first wants to protect their own industry, and then after that they can cooperate with other industries. They choose very cautiously which fields they would protect and which they would not. They very carefully choose companies with whom they will cooperate. Korea wants to focus on high-tech technologies, high-end technologies for the future. That's the main focus of Korea, not the usual products from machine engineering, etc. I've also mentioned that the Industry 4.0 has been accelerated, and that includes automation and digital transformation. The global value chain has been restructured, and the key industries are the technology-intensive industries with high added value, especially life sciences, medical, biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, IT, and also cutting-edge technologies. Also services, for example, smart warehouses and e-commerce. Due to COVID, there's been a big boom of e-commerce. Even before COVID, South Korea has been a very developed country, advanced in this field, but now there's been such a boom that you can order online anything, basically anything. There's been a big boom of e-shops and e-commerce in South Korea. The main platforms are Coupang and Gmarket. Amazon and eBay exist as well, but they're not as popular. Korea is a very developed country, a technological country, but you might be surprised that a lot of platforms are localized only for the Korean market. That's, for example, Naver or Kakao. It's like WeChat in China. You have one or two platforms. You can use that for your communication. You can use it for GPS, maps, or do your online shopping, book, restaurants, etc. Unfortunately, it's mostly in Korean and it's linked to Korean banks. It's not always compatible, even though you might have an English language version, it still works just with Korean credit cards. As to doing business with Korea, I'd like to stress that there's a big emphasis on personal meetings, which is very difficult currently. Unless you have this first personal contact, it's very difficult to go on in your business. That's what makes it even more complicated. The negotiating process and the decision, that might take a while, but after that it might be quite fast. Most Asians do not like to say no. They might say later, later. But sometimes, if they're really interested, it might take some time, but after they decide, you can launch the product very quickly. It's a very traditional society, and governmental offices play a major role. I'd like to summarize again the major fields. I've been mentioning them before: engineering, robotics, automation, 5G, etc. There's still some space for food industry and consumables. If you provide something with a story, something historical, something they can't manufacture themselves. Korea is a very developed country and they can create a lot of things. They produce a lot of things, and it is good to focus on something they cannot manufacture. What are the opportunities in this area? We plan a lot of events, but unfortunately it is not possible to be present in person at these events. Despite that, we offer an opportunity to help you online. There are certain fairs and conferences, and if you are interested, we can represent you at such events. If you're interested, just send me an email. You can follow the updates on Czech Trade and Czech Invest. Unfortunately, it is not possible to be present physically, and we'll see next year whether it will be possible or not. It is not confirmed yet whether these events will be postponed or whether they will happen. Thank you very much for your attention. That's all for me. And on the last slides, there's my contact details. Thank you very much. There are no questions. One question over here. Can you still hear us? There's one question. Thank you for your presentation. A lot of companies address me from Korea. From the perspective of the president, they have some data that might not be clear. So I'd like to know what's the principle, whether it's whether the central government that directs the businesses as well, or whether they're independent. What's the situation? We need to clarify that. In the Czech Republic, again, it's different. In the Czech Republic and Slovakia, the culture of businesses is a bit different, and Korean companies often ask us what's the background, what's the approach in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And we need to explain them what's happening. What you mentioned, you said that they focus on saving their own companies, but they want certain know-how from us. So what do you think? Is there a certain approach from the government? Or is the market open? We're not sure what's the situation in South Korea. Based on our experience from the last years, our efforts usually failed. We failed to continue in cooperation. I'm not sure what field are you talking about. I'm not sure you mentioned that. Can you specify that? It's not industry. It's well-being of people, because President of South Korea wants to nationalize companies. And there are certain companies in certain regions that use help of innovation clusters. Is that clearer now? I'm sorry, I haven't understood your question right. You haven't heard about nationalization of companies because the power is rising, but on the other hand, companies are still independent, but the previous president wanted to launch cooperation between the government and companies, and there were certain innovation clusters that cooperated with smaller companies. So big companies cooperate with the smaller companies and help them expand abroad. They help them with technology platforms, etc. And now they ask us, what is the Czech way? How does it work? They hear about the Baťa story, about his way of doing business. Can you specify your question once more, very simply? Okay, there are certain problems in South Korea, and companies in South Korea ask us about our companies. Can you elaborate on that? I'm really sorry. Well, I'll try to answer that. Hopefully, I'll answer your question. I'm not sure who do you represent, so I'm not sure I'll answer your question. But it's true that there is this dispute between the government and the companies. Some companies are pro-government, some are anti-government, and there is a big gap between the poor and the rich. The main goals right now is to maintain jobs and create new jobs. And it's clear that there's a very narrow link to Cheboli and the government, because there's a lot of funding from Cheboli. They do not like the ideas about nationalization, this policy of nationalization, but I can't really tell you what's actually happening. I can tell you what's in the media. There's been a lot of protests, and we'll see what will be the outcome, what will be the result of the next elections. Now we must overcome the crisis. We need to support the local economy, both big and small companies. And as I mentioned in my presentation, there has been a restructurization, and that focused mainly on local businesses, on the regional SMEs, on the regional companies, and also a cooperation with the neighboring countries. There's also a big support of the industries that operate outside Seoul, Seoul, there are certain fields of industry that are promoted and that support is spread around the whole country, not only in cities but also regionally. This is the New Deal also that I've mentioned. The goal is 2025. These are just plans, and there have been big doubts about whether the plan is not too ambitious, whether anything will be reached. Maybe not as many jobs will be created, maybe it's just a political gesture. We'll see how it will look like after 2022. That's the date of the next elections, and nobody knows what will happen in 5 years. But you said that the participants can contact you via email, so if you have any further questions, please use that option. Thank you very much for your presentation. Have a good day in Seoul. Goodbye.
Nashledanou.
Tak a přesouváme se k dalšímu.
So we are a little bit lagging behind, so we are moved to the next block, which is blockchain, the next chapter. So I would like to invite Mr. Otto Havle, the president of the board of directors of ELA Blockchain Services. Good afternoon. Would you please speak 15 minutes? Because we need the presentations to be a little bit shorter. So there is a presentation about blockchain. We need to understand the technical basis of blockchain. They usually serve to authenticate signatures, for example, or files. So we will show you how to register files in blockchain and why a copy on blockchain must be authentic. So we will use a text document as an example. For example, there is a confirmation in PDF. So what will we do? We need to register the document on blockchain. To do that, we need to create its hash. So that means a print of data. So we will run this through a hash program, and we will get the chain of 64 signs. It's such a big number that it looks like this in the decimal way to show numbers. So it's as big as the number of atoms in space. Two different files will have two different hashes. Theoretically, it is possible to create a fake file with the same hash, but then the content will not be understandable and intelligible. It is not possible to falsify a document so that the hash stays the same. Two different files have always different hashes. Also, you cannot restore the original data from a hash because it is based on transformation that cannot be done backwards. So we created a hash to register a file in a blockchain. We will add metadata that will be later used, for example, to find the hash. But these are not necessary. This together creates a record that enters into blockchain. Then also service data will be put and added to the record. And there will also be a timestamp. The blockchain will add security data. New block is always connected to the end of a blockchain. So hashes of the previous blocks are added at the end. If somebody wants to change anything in the chain, it will disrupt the chain and the attempt would be revealed. So there is no way how to falsify blockchain. Where is blockchain stored? In the ordinary meaning, it is a chain of blocks. But it is also used for a network of computers, blockchain nodes, where these chains are stored. These computers communicate together and make sure that they have the identical copy of the blockchain. So this is again the reason why it cannot be made fake. If one node disappears, blockchain stays on the other computers. And when the computer goes back to the network, the original nodes will help the computer restore its original blockchain. So now we will see how we can authenticate a document through blockchain. We have a copy of a confirmation, and we need to see if it's identical with the original. So we compute the hash. If the hash is the same, it will be the same as the original document. If we find the hash in the blockchain, we can be sure that our copy is true. Thanks to the additional data, we can also see who registered the block and when and where. So, what is important? Blockchain does not serve as data storage. Everybody needs to look for their own data, because if you lose the data, its registration in blockchain is useless. This is why blockchain doesn't make your data less secure. You cannot steal anything from blockchain. It's just a certificate, but it does it perfectly. A record in blockchain cannot be altered or destroyed. Also, Bitcoin is based on blockchain, and nobody has ever falsified data on blockchain. If data were stolen, it was just because of access data to transactions, not because of blockchain. So it is a technology of our digital future. The advantage of the Czech Republic is that it has a public blockchain. It was created for Czech industry, and it is a public authority which is guaranteed by independent owners of blockchain nodes, such as the Ministry of Industry and Trade, universities, law firms, and important industrial companies. ELA blockchain is a platform that helps companies to create blockchain applications. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We can go on. My name is Otto Havle, and I am here on the behalf of ELA Blockchain Services. It's a startup that was set up by Czech Electronic Association. Its first task is to develop and administer the first industrial blockchain in the Czech Republic. This forum focuses on South Asia, so I will also focus on blockchain in Southeast Asia. I'm sorry, the presentation is in English, so I will speak Czech, but the presentation is in English. As you've seen in the movie, because maybe some of you don't know what blockchain is, blockchain is a part of our lives. It can be used to verification of copies, of records. For example, you register a photo of a construction on blockchain. It can also verify intellectual rights. Also, you can find out about fake news because of that. There are different projects in the world that work on blockchain, such as Beef Ledger or a project by Maersk. At the moment, blockchain mostly replaced a timestamp or electronic signature, but it has its place in Industry 4.0, along with artificial intelligence. Why did we establish Ella blockchain? Sometimes it is tricky for businesses to work with blockchain. You can use the blockchain that serves to cryptocurrencies, but who would want to be involved in cryptocurrencies? Also, we can use a banking blockchain, but not many people know a banking project that's favorable for their company. Or you can use a blockchain by a corporation. But then you will get a lot of ads and your information will be collected. Also, these companies are usually under pressure from the politics and political parties. So if the legislation changes, you can lose your blockchain. Now there are some technical troubles. I'm sorry. Let's stop here. Ella blockchain brings a solution to all that, because the owners of blockchain nodes are those who use the blockchain, so individual users. This is why you can share trust and create trust and use it. There are again some technical issues. As I have said, owners of the nodes are independent companies that use and create the blockchain at the same time. You have already seen that this is not just an idea, it's real. Many companies from the Czech Republic have joined it. This is how the Czech Republic became an interesting blockchain lab for companies abroad as well. We aim to expand with blockchain globally into the world, to Asia or Africa or South America. And we have decided to start in Asia. Why is that? Blockchain is very useful where businesses cooperate in different legal areas and cultural areas. Also, the Asia-Pacific territory is very advanced technologically. It is a leader in technologies. And we also have some personal contacts with people in Asia and Pacific. I went with I went with one of the Czech ministers to Taiwan, so we managed to make a deal with one of the companies. Our turnover is $1.7 billion. I mean, the turnover of our partner. 2 years ago, it started a big cloud project for industry, and Ella blockchain will be included in the layer of cloud services. So we hope that during this week or next week, we will launch the first testing node. And we hope that we will be able to offer services on this platform. So this is the expansion to Asia. I would like to invite you to Ella blockchain meeting. There will be several things that might be interesting for you, such as authentication of technological data by blockchain or in blockchain. These are data stored in cloud. Also, registration of legal documents or authentication of documents and confirmation of documents. Some companies use blockchain in their communication with their own employees. We are also working on certifying media files. This is to prevent alteration in media news or documents. Here you can see access data to Zoom, or you can go to the website of Czech Electronic Association or Ella blockchain. So this is all from me. I hope that I will be able to get to the last slide. Thank you very much for your attention. So this was Otto Havle. Thank you very much for your introduction. Maybe we will have questions. I would now like to invite Jiří Kobelka, CEO and founder of Datum. I can see him online.
Welcome to Smart Expert Forum. Good afternoon. The floor is yours. Can I share the screen? Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Jiří Kobelka, and I'd like to talk about using blockchain in companies. I have a short introduction into blockchain. I'll go through it very briefly. What Otto Havle said is all true, but there is a lot of mystification in blockchain nowadays. About blockchain, there's quite a complicated mechanics. You cannot forge that, and it's much more secure than the existing systems for storing the data. Very often people forget that, which is a pity, because it is very easy to use. For example, Ella blockchain, that's very easy to use. That's a very simple solution with which you can use very efficiently. How does it look like? You have certain data, and you can change the data. Let's say there is a company in supply chain, or you are part of government. But the bad thing is that anyone can change it. Let's look at the little devil in the middle. There's one person that want to misuse the system and then can change the data in the system and then it goes wrong. But blockchain is different because the data is distributed everywhere, and let's say you have this small devil there, everyone can find out, then everyone will become angry with the devil and they'll just exclude him from blockchain. That's what happens with blockchain. You cannot have any false data, you cannot forge the data, and there have not been any misuses of the data. Nothing can be modified. What I would like you to get from my presentation is that blockchain is very safe for storing your data. And what do we do in Tatum? We want the blockchain to be very easy to use for the end users, whether you have your own ICT or you can have your company that develops applications for you. We have an open source platform. There are open resources, and the programmers can use that and can provide blockchain solution for you. It doesn't require any expertise in blockchain. It takes just 1 to 2 hours to learn that. It's very easy. Banks use that a lot. Payment companies use that a lot. We even have some army assignments, and it's indeed very easy to use. If you just want to get familiar with the system, you can try a free demo of Tatum. What are the projects? Typically, they last a year or two, and we all know that this is too much nowadays. That's the standard tools, but when you use Tatum, it only takes 1 or 2 days. Well, in real time, it's only 4 to 6 hours, but we say 1 or 2 days because it will not be more. Any developer can use that. You don't need to have expertise with Tatum. And what's the main focus of my presentation? I'd like to talk about typical blockchain use cases, and you can see that you can use it in a lot of fields. Personally, I prefer to speak about choices, and it's been several days since I learned that South Korea plans to do elections via blockchain. You can imagine that you save a lot of documents, a lot of paper. It's much easier to organize elections through blockchain. So that's my favorite topic. But we're not here to talk so much about government uses. I'd like to mention some examples from industries. As Otto Havler mentioned, one of the big industry uses of blockchain is in IoT, Internet of Things. That's all the kinds of sensors. You can do very fast operations using very small tools. Let's imagine thermometer sensors for insurance companies. If the temperature in agriculture goes under 5 degrees of Celsius, the sensor provides information to the insurance company. And there you instantly have the information about the specific plant or field that is in danger because of the low temperature. From the IoT perspective, especially the big companies use intelligent, smart tools a lot, especially these sensors, when they need to track the manufacturing system, the production, or the products themselves. These products can communicate with each other, and this is a very good opportunity to use blockchain because no one can interfere in the communication, no one can misuse that. Those of you who have experience from automotive industry know that the vehicles communicate a lot. They track a lot of parameters, the distance, the kilometers, where you go, etc., etc. But at the same time, if you are a car manufacturer, you always deal with security. You know that it's not 100% safe, the system. You know that at the end of the day, anyone can get into the car, and with basic knowledge of these systems, they can change the data in the system. So it's very difficult to prove that the information in the system are trustworthy. And once they use blockchain technology, they can prove that very easily. When we're talking about the automotive industry, you might know supply chain. I'm not sure what the Czech term is, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So within this supply chain, there are a lot of events that might happen. The supply chains are really long. You are sharing information between different supply chains. And big companies, especially big companies in the automotive sector, need to integrate a lot of SAP systems. They need to integrate new suppliers that produce rear view mirrors, etc., etc. And this kind of integration is very costly. And the problem is that they need to share the data in a transparent way. Not all the data, but they need transparency. And that's what blockchain enables. You can do that with blockchain. Otto Havle also mentioned that you can verify the origin of the products, and you can verify the origin of medicine. You can use it for all kinds of verification. At the moment, we are discussing that with one company that is present in Asia, and this company supplies technologies to the US Ministry of Defense, and this technology is manufactured in China, which is a problem because the US Ministry of Defense does not want to buy technologies that is manufactured in China. They are afraid that there might be a security risk, and this can be a risk for their security. They are also afraid that they might be a risk during transport. And at the moment, we are working on a technology that can be used for these products, for these technology tools. They scan the product in the US, they scan them before transport, and they can verify it's 100% match. And if it is 100% match, they can use it in their defense systems. Blockchain is a technology that can overcome such obstacles and can help you with tracking in logistics, precious alloys, precious metals, production in general, Internet of Things, all kinds of sensors. There is one example from Nigeria, for example. There is one project. It's an energy project. The air conditioning system, and when you turn on your air conditioning system, other systems go down, and blockchain can be used to operate that. I mentioned the automotive industry, and you can use it also for verifying the history of the car, how many miles or kilometers have been driven in that car. You can verify that through blockchain. And in South Korea or other countries in that region, you can use blockchain for microtransactions or other uses, tokenization, for example. They are really far ahead of Europe, I would say, in Asia. This is a brief overview of the uses of blockchain. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? I'll be happy to answer any questions. You can find my contact details here. You can write me an email, and the main message is that blockchain is a database. Use a lot of databases right now, SQL, non-SQL, and you can use the blockchain database as well. You might not even know that you use the previous two databases, but that's it. Don't be afraid. It's a good technology. It's nothing bad. It's much safer. Are there any questions? I have one short question. How often does it happen that companies do not trust this technology? What can you do about that? Well, it happens a lot. And I'm very sad about that. There are a lot of prejudices, a lot of fears. It is caused especially by the cryptocurrencies, because there are very bad connotations when you mention cryptocurrencies. That is a field that have quite a bad reputation. I must say that there might be big future for that, but this looks very risky. Especially Central Europe is quite behind. I'd say that Asia or the USA are much more ahead in this field. They are much more aggressive. And what's interesting is that they say they do not want to use it, but in fact they use it a lot. For example, JP Morgan, the biggest bank in the world, developed their own blockchain solution, but they've been saying in public that it's not a good solution, but in fact they are using it. We are trying to demystify all those prejudices. It's nothing devilish. It's just a normal database as any other database. You can get data from it, you can put data in it, but it's a different mechanism. It's much safer. You can do different kinds of things with that. Maybe people will not be afraid as much after your presentation. Thank you very much for that. And we'll have the last block. It will be about robotics. And Jiří Holoubek is our next speaker. Is the president of Electrical and Electronic Association and also member of the board of the Confederation of Industry and Trade in the Czech Republic. He focuses on Industry 4.0 and SMEs. Before we connect, I'd like to mention that the Electric and Electronic Association of the Czech Republic was founded in 1992, and since then there has been a lot of development. There are a lot of members right now. They've gained a lot of trust among companies, not only in the Czech Republic, but also on the international level.
Jiřího Holoubka, prezidenta.
So I would like to welcome Jiří Holoubek, president of the Electronic and Electric Association. Welcome to the Smart Export Forum. The floor is yours. Good afternoon to all our listeners, those who are present in person at the Smart Export Forum, and also those there are some technical issues. We are sorry for the technical issues. What about now? Is everything all right? It seems everything's all right now. I am sorry. I will be quite brief because I think that we are lagging behind. And the topic that I wanted to open at Smart Export Forum is related to companies that are Japanese or come from Southeast Asia. This is the field of robotics. During the last 5 years, it has been very successful in the Czech Republic. As to the companies from Japan and South Korea, we appreciate a lot in the Czech Republic that they are technologically very advanced. These are leading companies in robotics in the world. And also, it is not only robotics as such, but also the integration of robots into the industrial networks and systems. So this is a huge contribution to the digital transformation of our environment. This is one of the most positive things that we appreciate in companies from Southeast Asia. I would like to show you now my presentation. It will focus on robotics in Czech companies at the moment and also what the predictions are. I hope that it is shared well, so I will start directly with my topic. What our companies are starting to gradually realize about robots, I must say really gradually starting, because we would like to focus on small and medium enterprises. And here the level is not the same in all fields. Robots has been used in industry since the 60s, especially where work conditions were not very good. This means in automotive companies. There were times where people had to handle heavy materials and they got often injured. So this is why these companies introduced robots already in 60s. At the moment, we mostly encounter autonomous robots that are able to communicate with their digital environment, and they are ready for implementation into Industry 4.0. It is not true that everybody who's got robots has already implemented Industry 4.0. Some people think so, but this is a mistake that we need to get rid of. In other areas, not just automotive and engineering, this means fields where robotic technologies have been used in many years. So also in the other fields, the opinion about robots is slowly changing. Robots can contribute to productivity. So this means how many time it takes to manufacture a product, but also the effectiveness of manufacturing as such. So there are robotic applications in food industry, clothing industry, agriculture as well. And also Czech small and medium enterprises are gradually understanding that they will need robots. What is the situation of robotics in the Czech Republic? Very often we work on collaborative robots. Here is a picture where the Chancellor Merkel is afraid of a robot, but we need to imagine and to take into account that there are three types of cooperation. There is first a shared workspace. That means the things we know from the beautiful videos where there is, for example, a girl that assembles small components, and those components are also assembled by a collaborative robot, and they together assemble a more complex machine. Such a cooperation must not always be this efficient, because it is unnatural for a human being. It's a kind of stress. Also, there are mobile collaborative robots who share a bigger space with a person. They do not influence each other. Sometimes the person controls the robot, in heavy industry, for example. And some of those mobile collaborative robots replace assembly lines. One of the attributes of Industry 4.0 is the variability and the possibility to control the manufacturing process. And this is where collaborative robots can cut costs a lot, because things can be assembled according to immediate needs. Also, robots together with persons have shared space, shared workspace, but they do not share the specific workplace. There is a part where robots work, and they are not protected against people, or people are not protected against robots, because everybody do their own work, persons and also robots. So they have nothing really in common except that they share space. This is very favorable in small and medium enterprises because the workplace is very often not able to be too big and too massive. What about the future? This is also a platform regime of shared space or sharing robots. So we think that in the future, companies will be able to share robotic workplaces, or a situation will be simulated for them. For example, in agriculture or in sugar manufacturing industry, people might share robotic workplaces so that they can be used all over the clock, even though these industries are more active, for example, in summer than in winter. Our issue is to find the return on investment. So we need a return on investment. At the moment, we very often cannot define and take into account what is the investment. Sometimes S&Ps also need to take cash flow into account, not just the number they get at the end of the accounting year, also quality management. Sometimes we invest into an application, and like that we create infrastructure that will influence our later activities. So maybe we should also take into account prices of energy, fixed costs. Sometimes we are not able to assess the power of our own capital. So we should take into account whether we might take out a loan. It can also influence the employee loyalty. So the question always is, what are the assets and how we can take them into account? We need to train employees sometimes. We need to change the occupational health and safety guidelines. So the return of investment is very often underestimated. Small and also bigger companies are sometimes not really able to define specifically how to assess, how to evaluate the implementation of robots. At the moment, there are still many things that we are not sure about. Sometimes we deter small and medium enterprises by examples, such as we show them a huge workplace with many dozens of robots, whereas they maybe just need one assembly robot for a very specific activity. Or they need a robot in a warehouse. And now we are showing them very complicated welding automats. Lack of employees can never be an argument for adopting robots, because robots are not people, and they cannot do the same things as people. So this is not a criteria for adopting robots. What we need for investment, we need to assess a specific application in a specific time and specific project. Sometimes consultants say that they have already applied certain solutions elsewhere, and they tell you that maybe we should use the same solution as other companies have already used. But we cannot say that every company needs the same things. We always need to be specific. What is also important, we must not be afraid of artificial intelligence that might use the robot not only in the area of a specific manufacturing task, but also in the broader scope, in the production in the whole company, in total. So, what should we do to do it better? I mean, all those negative things I have mentioned and also the positive things. So, what should we do to implement the good things to most of the companies or to many companies? We have created an application called Jak na robota. It means how to adopt robots. It is for companies who are interested in implementing robots. It helps you to define your needs very specifically, and based on these very specific data, you can get together with a potential supplier and you can match your interests and to create conditions to create a sensible contract that will be useful for both parties. This application is called Jak na robota, and it is meant for Apple Store and for Google. It is already in operation. Unfortunately, the current situation slows us down because we wanted to create a presentation for businesses who are not active in the area of manufacturing. So we wanted to organize events for businesses from other sectors to see if they might implement a robot, because it is difficult to compare several fields or different industries. However, most of the fairs we wanted to go to were cancelled. This is why these meetings will not be held. It is a bit of a problem to do this virtually. So at the moment, we've been slowed down. We are trying to innovate as much as possible for companies from different fields, and we believe that we will be able to offer this application for a broad scope of potential users and for a broad scope of businesses that could implement robots. Thank you very much for your attention, and I believe that if there are questions, you can ask us on our website, Electro Industry, or through the application or through the forum. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your presentation. If you don't have your questions right now, please contact Mr. Holoubek directly through email or through his association. Have a nice day. Thank you very much. And we are moving closely to the end. I'll now ask Petr Očko to come here with his final speech. He's the Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade for Digitization and Innovation. Good afternoon. You need a microphone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me to Smart Expert Forum 2020. I'm very glad that this forum has become a tradition. I'm the Deputy Minister for Digitization and Innovation, and I'm very glad that you have been supporting the topics of digitization and innovation with the support of export in the Czech Republic. The best support of export is the support of added value and the support of specific projects. I'm very glad that we have discussed the topic of digital technologies at the Smart Expert Forum. Also blockchain, artificial intelligence and digital transformation. I've listened to all the presentations very carefully, especially the last presentation from Mr. Holoubek from the Confederation of Industry. We have been cooperating very closely on a lot of innovations and digital transformation topics. We provide digital transformation to a lot of companies, and we help them via the initiative Industry 4.0 and via the platform Digital Czechia. There is also one part that is about the digital economy of the society, not only the digital economy of the state. So there are a lot of activities that are related to digitization. We support digitization of industry, of research and development. We have a lot of platforms and programs for companies that help them with technologies for 4.0. We cooperate with NUKIP. We cooperate with Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs and with other associations. This is connected to the topics of digital infrastructure as well, development of digital infrastructure as such, especially optic cables. I've just received the new information that the government has approved an act on new constructions, and that includes digitization as well. We have prepared new 5G strategy of the Czech Republic that is meant to develop 5G network in the broad context. It has a big context. It's not only about the network, but there are a lot of new cases, new networks, new corporations, and I'm very glad that Jiří Holoubek mentioned that as well. He spoke here on behalf of the Confederation of Industry and Trade as well, and he's also a member of our platform for 5G in industry. We had a coordination meeting together because the Czech Republic is an industrial country. We are very proud of that, and that means we need to invest a lot in the digitization of industry, and that includes 5G network and the network of new generation. This includes the 5G strategy. We want to include a lot of partners. We want to be transparent in the next steps. That's why we formed this 5G alliance. There are also stakeholders that want to take part in the digital development of the Czech Republic and Czech society. This is also connected to cybersecurity of 5G networks. Last week, there was a conference on cybersecurity and 5G security. It was mainly virtual, online from 90%, and it was an international conference with international participation. We had participants from all time zones, and I'm sure the Czech Republic is one of the countries where there is a big development in the field of digital technologies. We want to invest in that. We want to invest in digital transformation. We need new technologies, and the success lies in Czech companies that want to engage in digital transformation, and we want to support Czech companies. That's why discussion with companies is important for us. I'd like to thank the organizers of Smart Expert Forum, because in current situation it's almost impossible to organize such a big event with such a broad spectrum of topics. I'm very glad that we were able to use digital technologies here as well, that all the speakers could take part, or the participants could follow us. We have a lot of international participants that could not be present here, but they can listen to us. There have been a lot of topics we want to discuss, and I believe that Smart Expert Forum has a big future. A few years ago, there was its first edition, and I'm really glad it has become a tradition. And I'm very glad we have been supported by the Ministry of Industry and Trade. Thank you very much. That was all from me. Thank you for your conclusion. Thank you for coming. And hopefully there'll be dynamic changes from the part of the government as well. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to ask all of you who want to take part in the final meeting to go there right now. We are a bit delayed. You can still talk about enterprise network in Czech Republic. You can talk about blockchain, and you can discuss other topics as well. I wish you good luck in everything you're doing, and I hope you have learned a lot today and it's been interesting for you. Thank you very much.